question, man. So I have a small background, medium background, large background, in competitive card games, right? Whether that be Magic the Gathering, Force of Will. Most notably, the game I played the longest, Yu-Gi-Oh! And the games, at least in the West, can be kind of expensive to get into, right? And when I say expensive, maybe you imagine something along the lines of, $70 to $100 for like a deck, right? What if I told you that there's card games, one in specific, where cards are regularly at price. There are certain cards and engines at the top level of play that are within that $70 to $100 range. Let me pull up some examples. I already have 3 examples here, close to that range. Maybe they're not all that exact price, but this is one of the newer cards in the game. It came out in Age of Overlord. It's Wanted, Seeker of the Sinful Spoils. This gets you to the DL Bellstar monsters, which is like a really powerful engine for fire decks in the game right now. And it is, on average, $100. On average, $100. A pretty expensive piece of paper. That's worth another piece of paper, like a US dollar, 100 of them, right? That's a lot of money. And as you see, like this chart, it's going up, right? It's coming back down a little bit here. Where's the tail end here? But it went up by a lot, by a good amount, about $20. $20, $30 went up. And this is very common for Yu-Gi-Oh! I can actually think of one more, which is really funny. I can think of another one. I didn't even think of this one. Also in the same set, Age of Overlord. $145 median price. Oops. Median price, $133. Market price, $133. Listed medium is $140, right? That's a lot of money, right? There's a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks that aren't so good, that are kind of weaker, outside of the meta, as it were, that you can buy the entire deck for the price of this one card. And that happens a lot. Now, if you want to take your game to the next level, if one of your hobbies is competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!, not just casual Yu-Gi-Oh!, then you would need cards like SP Little Knight. Maybe you would need the DL Bellstar engine, and here's the DL Bellstar monster, the star monster of the deck, to go with the, this Wanted card, the Wanted Seeker of the Sinful Spoils. Here she is, also sitting at $39 to $40, right? Bonfire, another new card just coming out from Maze of Millennia, $100, right? These cards are very expensive, and maybe these aren't so much stable. You could look at SP Little Knight, a card like Triple Tactics Thrust. Oh my gosh, $40. Pretty expensive. Actually, the cheaper version, because it just recently got reprinted. The original version is still sitting at about $60. Now, this has been a problem in Yu-Gi-Oh! For a really long time, and this problem is called being priced out. And I want to show you guys the definition of priced out before I talk about it anymore. Being priced out means that you cannot afford the price of a specific good or service. This can happen when the market price becomes too high and you cannot afford the good or service. The real solution is to find a similar good or service at a lower cost that is within your budget. Thank you. That's all we needed to see. That last part is all that we needed to see. So, as you see, these card prices are really ridiculous. You might really love competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!, but say you can't afford it anymore. What do? Do you continue to try to throw your head into a brick wall, trying to afford these cards, work 3 jobs, and donate plasma and a kidney, sell a lung or something to afford these cards? Or you find a cheaper good or service adjacent? Now, I'm not here to say that the perfect way to solve this is for everyone to quit Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think if your biggest problem with the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Does its business is you having to spend too much money to get into core to play the best decks in the game, maybe look over to another card game that looks similar or fun enough in comparison to Yu-Gi-Oh! That you would want to try. There are so many other card games out there. Like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering in the West are market leaders, and that is probably why Yu-Gi-Oh! Has done this for so long, where this is not a new phenomenon. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is extremely expensive. This has been happening for years. Right? We can go back to when Pot of Prosperity was a $100 card, and then we can go back to when Infinite Impermanence was a $70 card, and we can go back to when Ash was a $40 or $50 card, right? Just keep going back and back and back, and the same scenario applies. There's always some deck or some card for cards in formats that are too expensive and hard to afford for the vast majority of players that are even trying to be competitive, right? Like, say you're building an entire deck around, like a fire deck, right? You probably want these, right? That's $300, $420. Okay, you also need your SP Little Knight. That's it's $700 when you also count in your Triple Tactics Plus. It's like $750, all for one deck, all for a few cards, right? Maybe the other cards in the deck are cheaper, and that's the way you want to look at it. But if you're being priced out of a hobby you enjoy, out of a genre of type of game you enjoy, maybe look over at other card games, right? I'm not saying that it's a perfect solution, but I do think it's a solution that makes it so more people kind of notice, oh shit, we're losing money here, right? And I don't mean more people as in secondary market, right? Because none of this is controlled inherently by Konami. The only thing Konami does is Konami sets the rarities for these cards, making them chase cards in sets, making them harder or easier to pull. And when you do that, you are basically creating the scarcity that exists in the market, right? And if you look over at Yu-Gi-Oh! in Japan, in the East, they print these staples, these very powerful, impactful, meta-defining cards at multiple rarities in the same set. Super rare, ultra rare, secret rare, collector's rare, right? We only print them ultra secret, or just secret, or secret collector, right? So because of that, that means that a lot of the set that would be able to be opened and make you money doesn't exist in the same way, right? Because people will still rarity chase, but they don't have the opportunity to, right? Because you only have one printing of it in Maze Malaya and one printing of it in Photon Hypernova. Right? It's not, oh look, here's the Ultra, here's the Secret in the same set. Here's the Ultra, here's the Secret, here's the Super for you brokies, right? If you're broke, just say that. That is a fair assessment, but it's not a good way to look at a hobby, right? I would like everyone to be able to enjoy the things they want, regardless of the cost. So, I mean, I've played a good amount of other card games, right? I won't say that this is not an issue with other card games, but it definitely feels the most impactful when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! And the reason why I say that is because when I played Magic the Gathering, I had one of the best decks in the game at the time in Kaladesh, Amonkhet, in Kaladesh through Hour of Devastation standard, Amonkhet block, Temur Energy, right? Temur Energy, Sultai Energy. I played one of the best decks. It only cost me about $200. That's a lot of money for some people, sure, right? But $220-ish for one of the best decks in the room at any event, compared to $700, is a lot of money. That's not even the whole deck. You still need the rest of your extra deck, 15 cards, right? We accounted for one extra deck monster here, maybe two. Maybe you have to play 2 SP Little Knights, depending on how the meta is progressing, right? How important this card is towards the end game of boards and the starting plays of it, right? And Pokemon also isn't super expensive because they print their cards at multiple rarities, right? I was going to buy a Miraidon deck. Miraidon is one of the better decks in the game right now. It's not the best deck, but it's one of the better decks. I believe it won a Pokemon regional in like South America, and I was going to build it because of that, right? It was between like Iron Valiant and EX Miraidon, or Miraidon EX, whichever you want to call it. And the shop that I go to for my cards, and that we also have my Fighting Game Locals at, they put it together for me for $70. I was like, hot damn, $70. There are certain Yu-Gi-Oh cards you can't even buy for the cost of them. Like if I walk in with $70, I'm like, can I build a Yu-Gi-Oh deck? They're like, hey, 70 or 700. I walk in with $70 and I say, boy, can I build myself a solid Pokemon deck that can play in the metagame? Play in the meta? Yep, here you go. Here's EX Miraidon. Here is Mew VMAX, right? Though I don't know if that deck is still popular. But I think you understand my point. Look over to other card games. Maybe you'll find a solution to this, not by playing the same game and lowering the amount of fun you can have in the game because you can't afford the powerful cards. Maybe go play a different game where the powerful cards aren't so expensive. And it's a shitty way to think about it, but it starts to hurt Konami's bottom line. Less product gets open because there's less demand for it. Less shops run locals. And Konami notices, oh, we're not selling as much product. I wonder what we did wrong. Gee, But if you continue to feed into the cycle and continue to buy these cards and play the game and chase these rares and chase these ultras and supers and secret, whatever rarity they may be, then Konami doesn't get the message that you want lower rarity staples because you're not speaking with your wallet. Speaking with your heart because you love Yu-Gi-Oh! I get it. I totally understand. But loving the game does not mean that you have to go broke for it. Try something else. Try other hobbies adjacent to yours. It doesn't even have to be specifically money, right? You could just be emotionally uninvested in a certain type of game, like a certain MOBA anymore. This MOBA is gotten kind of stale, not so great. Let me just try a different MOBA, right? Just move over. You don't have to completely get out of the genre of game. Just try a different one. Just my suggestion. I've seen a lot of people talking about this and like expecting things of Konami that's not going to happen without something happening to their bottom line, saying things like, oh, we should just do it like the OCG, which I agree with, but that's a drop in the hat. That's a small percentage of Konami even thinking about that, because of how much money they make in the West. Right? If you want to speak to one of these big companies, you have to speak to them through their pocketbook, right? Through their checkbook. Their checks start bouncing, and they're more likely to make decisions that make their customers, their most loyal paying customers, happy. If you continue to buy their product and support the way of their thinking, then you're telling them that you're happy, no matter how much you cry about it on YouTube and X. It doesn't change anything. Because they still see, ooh, big number go up on our sales figures this month. We should print more Diabell stars and more Wanteds and more bonfires. Good idea. That's what they see. Anyways, this has been Beanie Thuggish, talking about getting priced out of games you enjoy and what to do about it. Signing out and saying peace.